today I'm going to be doing my September wrap up, or all the books that I've read in September. So let's just get straight into this. In terms of a reading month, September was pretty in the middle. I don't think I've got higher than a 4.5 rating, and then I've not got any lower than a 3. So it's been a pretty okay in the middle kind of month. There's not been any book that's like blown me away, but also I've read a few good books. The first book I read in September was Happy Place by Emily Henry. Now I started this like October 30th, finished it first few days of September. I missed the season for it. I should have read this in summer, but I was being really stubborn. I didn't want to get the hardback because I've got all of her other books in paperbacks and I just wanted them to match. I had a bit of a change of heart, I guess. I figured her next book's gonna come out and then I'll be 2 books behind, so I need to read it. I gave this a 4.5. When I started it, I loved it and I was like, oh, this could be a 5-star. Like, this might be my favourite Emily Henry book. But as it went on, I kind of lost a little bit of that. I feel like maybe it dragged on a tad. Basically, this book is about Harriet and Wynne, and they are going to stay at their friend's beach house. I think it's a beach house or a lake house. And they go and do that every summer. They've been doing that for 10 years and they've been in a long-term relationship. So their relationship is a big part of the friend group. It kind of is intertwined. And they've recently broken up, but they have to go and spend one last summer in the house and they don't want to tell anyone they've been broken up. Neither one of them wants to be broken up as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know what they were doing. I think it dragged on a tiny bit. I did really enjoy it though. I loved the fan family, especially at the beginning. I loved the way especially the girls talked to each other. It was very cute. The next book I read in September was Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Now I've been putting this off since it came out. I think it came out at the start of the year and I bought it then, and I have been putting it off because it is a about 600 page romance, and there's certain romances which I'm like, I've read Buying 13 and Keeping 13 in the summer, and those are like 800 pages and I loved those. I think those were fine to be that long, but this was like 200 pages too long in my mind. I think I gave it a 3-star. I was really excited about this because I loved the other Dreamland Billionaires books. I loved the fine print. I gave that a 5-star when I read it. Terms and Conditions was a 4-star. I enjoyed it. This did not live up to them for me. So it's basically about Callahan, who is the 3rd brother out of the Dreamland Billionaires brothers. And then he is having to go to his family's lake house, or his grandfather's lake house, to sell it. He gets there and his like childhood best friend slash lover is there living in it, and she owns it as well. So he's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And she's really pissed off at him because he left her. But yeah, he in the other books was like the kind of golden retriever-y one out of the 3 of them, because the other 2 brothers are so grumpy, like especially the second brother in the second book, insanely grumpy, and he was giving not grumpy, and then in this book he was giving grumpy. So I don't know, he had a lot of internal issues going on that we didn't see in the other books because obviously we're not getting to know him that well, but it wasn't what I expected and it was fine. Next book was actually a good one. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This has been all the rage on Bookstagram. People have been so excited about this book, absolutely loving it. And I'm no different. I gave this a 4.5. It's probably like in between a 4.5 and a 4.75, but we're not gonna get that specific. So this book is basically about Clementine, and she's recently moved into her aunt's old apartment, and she goes there one day and there's a guy there and she's like, what the fuck, why are you in my house, you fucking weirdo, get out. Turns out, and she knows this because her aunt's told her in the past, turns out this apartment will travel 7 years into the past just randomly, and there's no way of controlling it. They just sometimes they go in and there's someone else living there, sometimes there's not and they're in the present. There's a romance. It was amazing. If you haven't read it, read it. Next, I read Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. I read the Truly Devious series in August and I absolutely loved it. I think all of them were like 4 stars, which for a YA mystery is a really good rating from me, because that's not really like my genre that I'm going to read all the time. And like comparing it to other YA like mystery thrillers I've read, like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder or The Inheritance Games, I think Truly Devious was my favourite. It was just so engaging for some reason, and I was in definitely like a big book slump end of August going into September, and the only books that I was finding interesting were these. Box in the Woods is kind of like a continuation of the Truly Devious series. I loved it just as much. I think I gave it a 4 stars. It was just easy, engaging, fun. There's a little bit of romance, which you gotta have a little bit of romance to keep me engaged, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, loved them, and I love the covers, so that helps. Although this one is so not floppy, and the other 3, they're over there, so I'm not gonna get up and pick them up. The other 3 are so floppy and amazing, and this one's like So after Box in the Woods, I read this book. Now, I picked this up when I went to the works for like £2, and I remember seeing Hayley Pham read this book, and I don't know if she really liked it that much, but I just remember finding it really intriguing. So basically it's this girl, Nora, this mother, she's a mother, and she's recently gotten like a divorce or a separation from her husband, and she writes a script based on the story, the downfall of her relationship with her husband, her ex-husband, and it becomes a movie script. And this is really strange, they come to her house to film the movie. Sure, okay, sure. And basically she starts a relationship with this big Hollywood actor, and then that's the tea. It was so good at the start. I read this in one night. I loved the start of it. I was like, oh my god, is this a 5-star, this little 200-page book? And then the ending super fell off for me. Like, by the end I was pissed off at everyone. I was pissed off at her, pissed off at him. Not a spoiler, but slight spoiler. This girl has 0 backbone. It's actually a little bit humiliating. I think I gave it a 4-star because I loved the majority of it, and then the end really pissed me off. So 4-star. Look how cute it is though. Just a cute little, it's literally like 250 pages. So after that, I really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, I want to read another like little light-hearted romance, which only me is gonna spend the entire year like, I want it to be autumn so I can read autumn books and be cozy, blah, 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 and then reads a bunch of romances. Classic. I read Second First Impressions super randomly. I just picked off my shelf that morning for no good reason. I haven't really heard anything about this book, really. It's by Sally Thorne, who wrote The Hating Game, which I read when I first started reading and I really enjoyed. I don't know if I'd feel the same about it now. But I surprisingly loved this book. It's about Ruthie, and she works at a retirement home, and she's kind of like a cute little, they describe her as like an old lady a lot, but she's like 25. She's very cute. And Teddy is the owner's son, and she has a bit of like a bad first meeting with him, and then he ends up coming to work at the retirement home while he's, I don't know, trying to make a bit of money. It's definitely opposites attract. It's very cute. He is like long black hair, biker jacket, like everyone's like, oh my god, he's so hot. But he's also so cute and funny. Like, his personality is golden retriever, and his outside is like fucking so iconic. Really loved this book, surprisingly loved this book. It's probably one of my favourite like light-hearted sweet romances, so I think that was like a 4.5. Next, I read Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Myra. Basically, it's about Evie, who gets employed by her, like, I don't know, kingdom's, like, most infamous villain. Like, the villain, the big villain, gets employed by him, and she has a big crush on him. Like, as soon as she meets him, she's like, you know, you're so hot. Like, there is no reason for you to look like that, and it's actually a bit strange, literally. It's definitely like fantasy, but not really. It's more like slow fantasy or whatever that's called. And then lots of like humour, which isn't usually always my fave, but I did really enjoy this. I think I gave it a 4-star, maybe a 4.5. I'm not completely sure, but it was really good. I would really recommend. I can't wait for the sequel. The villain's really hot. Next book I read was, again, Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. What? Why am I reading this in autumn when I want to read like all the cozy fantasies, and then I'm picking up Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey? Whatever. I think I gave it a 3 or a 3.5. It was good. Nothing to write home about. Tessa Bailey's smut scenes are sometimes unbearable, sometimes the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. I remember when I read It Happened One Summer, I like one time flicked back to it because my friend was reading it, and I was like, oh, I can't wait for her to get to that. That's gonna be so fucking funny. Let me just go back and remember. I read like a couple sentences that, what's his name, like Brendan says, and I was like, like, yeah, to get back to this, it was good if you want something quick, lighthearted. Finally, we're getting into the fantasy. I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This was a 4.25. Initially, I gave it a 4.75, and then I dropped it down to a 4.25 because it was very good, but it didn't hit for me the way that it has for other people. This book follows Payden, who is an ordinary, and she's living among elites, and basically the king has ordered for all the ordinaries to be killed because allegedly, according to his self, the ordinaries are carrying a disease and they're going to ruin all the elite's powers. Payden gets put into the purging trials, which is like their version of the Hunger Games, kind of, and it's like 9 people who get chosen to do it. And yeah, it's a bunch of trials, kind of similar to the Hunger Games. They don't have to kill each other, but they do because they're weird. Don't ask me why they want to kill each other. And she, within that, kind of meets this guy called Kai, who just so happens to be the prince. Also, he's going to be the kingdom's future enforcer, which is mixed between assassin and executioner. I don't know. And he's really hot, apparently. That's what she's telling me. And he says that she's really hot. So they kiss. That's Powerless. Really good. I'd honestly really recommend it, and it's a cute cover, and I can't wait for the next one. Okay, next, bit of a rogue one. I read Serenading Heartbreak by Ella Fields. Really randomly, I ordered this on Amazon because I've had it on my TBR since I first started reading. I don't know who spoke about it, probably like Steph Boa. It's basically about a girl, doesn't say a name, I can't remember it. She falls in love with her brother's best friend, who is in a band with her brother when they're like teens. And then that kind of has its drama. And then she goes to college and she falls in love with another guy. And back and forth. Yeah, this book didn't end how I wanted it to end. It kind of reminded me of a Wattpad book. Yeah. It's got a pretty cover. I gave it a 3-star. It can't be that bad. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy reading it. It was entertaining to read. But the ending pissed me off and other things pissed me off, and the guys were fucking assholes. So that is all the books I read in September. Pretty good reading month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I read 10 books, which is pretty standard for me now, about 10 books a month. There was one point last year when I read 20 books in a month. No, yeah, over 20 books a month, and that is not what I do anymore. No 5 stars, but I haven't had a 5-star since Fourth Wing, so what can we expect? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear about what you've been reading, what you're wanting to read in the coming months. Any autumnal recommendations would be very much appreciated, because I think I'm lacking a little bit looking at my bookshelf. It's looking very colourful, which, oh fuck's sake, it's looking very colourful, which isn't really the vibe. So yeah, any recommendations would be much appreciated, and I'll see you next time. if you want to come back, that would be so nice.